real quick and make sure we're coming through hunky-dory. It's getting there. And there we go. All right, I think we're in there. Can you say something real quick for me? Yep, that's perfect.
Hello.
Great.
I love cabbage. What? Oh.
Can everyone just let us know in the chat? Hi, everyone in the chat. Hi, Michael. Thanks for being here. Thanks for moderating. If hey, buddy. If you don't hear anything coming through, or if we've got audio issues, or I don't know, any of that fun stuff, just let us know and we'll try and fix it as best we can. Usually Robo's our producer, but he's moving. He's moving right now. He's got shit to do, you know. I'm sorry. I want to apologize. Hello, Judah. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate you. I just want to apologize to Glynis and everyone in advance because I am fucking pissed off today. I'm just pissed off. I'm in a pissed off mood. As Glynis is like waiting for me to jump on this this stream, what you guys don't see is that like all my shit is balanced on a bedside. You know those like in breakfast in bed tables? That's what I'm using.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm poor.
Love those.
Yeah, they're great, but like it fell apart and it broke my ring light and it broke my headphones and it was one of those like massive collapses that it was a domino effect, and I was watching it going, yeah, that would happen today. That makes sense. But how are you? How's everyone? How's the fam? How's the cats?
The cats are good. I'm fantastic. I've had a really easy day. I got some comics and I ate some really good food.
Hell yeah. What comics did you get?
I went and picked up, I get some locally and then some I pick up in the next town over. Because it's a nice drive. So I picked up Lonely Receiver, a couple King in Black, Marauders. All good stuff.
Hell yeah. That sounds like a good time. Yeah, loud and clear. Glynis saying some shit. Okay, cool. It sounds like the audio's all good. How's the chat going? How's everyone going in the chat? If you can drop us a like, that'd be super helpful. We're getting disliked by haters on the internet. Gotta love the haters contributing to the engagement.
It's good to know that I'm important enough, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And what they don't realize is that a dislike, like Michael said in the chat earlier, actually does just as much for us as a like. So we appreciate it. Thank you. Keep disliking away.
I ignore things I hate. Okay.
That's exactly what I do. But, you know, what do you do? Some people are just passionate little bunnies.
Everybody has different hobbies. I'm not going to like kink shame if that's what you're into.
That's exactly right. So I want to just jump in with a correction about sandworms and sandstorms, because last time Michael was like, how big are sandworms? And I was like, they're like 14,000 kilometers long, which is actually the size of the sandstorms, not the sandworms. And this time around, Kynes actually like gives us, because fucking Lita will Paul ask the same question when they meet up with him. They're like, how big do sandworms get? And now I can't remember what the answer was, but it definitely wasn't that big. It was big, but not that big.
It was big enough to swallow the spice manufacturing plant with extra room.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say fucking big.
Fucking big.
That's a scientific measurement.
Very big dick energy. How big is a sandworm's dick? That's the real question. Or are they just one massive penis? Is that how it works? Like, how does sandworm procreation work? I guess we'll find that out as we go. Michael Malone
I bet Kynes would know.
Kynes would know. That's why he's there. He's like, yeah, I'm into this. Yeah, you like that? You like that sand? You like that spice? Michael says, someone needs to kink shame me. Michael, what's your kink? Do you have a humiliation fetish? I can ream you on the air if you like. Should we just jump right into it, Glynis? How do you feel?
Yeah, let's go. I got my disorganized notes right here.
Whoop, whoop. Same. So this time we read from What Had the Lady Jessica to Sustain Her in Her Time of Trial to Greatness is a Transitory Experience. And this section was really hard for me personally to take notes in because it was very action heavy and there was like stuff going on. I don't know, do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I took, I think, 3 notes. A lot of my notes are just like, here's a vocab word, or here's the new character being introduced. For the entire sandworm section, I have maybe 2 notes because I was just like, I didn't put it down.
Yeah, I was the exact same. I'm like, I should be taking notes, but I can't. I
I
have to keep reading. So Michael says, I wonder where one would find sandworm sex tapes. I'm asking for a friend. Yeah, me too. Just for a friend. Like, no other reason.
I think
just for a friend.
the Fremen probably, because like, like, what else do you have to work with? So
That's right. That's right.
yeah.
Plus, like, is sex responsible given how much water that would get rid of? You know what I mean? Like, do they only have sex for procreation? Do they still have it recreationally, but like in still suits? You ever think
I
about
would
it?
assume that because this seems like they are very technologically advanced when they want to be, I assume like that at least the Bene Gesserits are all over birth control.
Yeah, yeah, you'd hope so. But like, I'm just thinking, like, even the act of sex itself is really
It
like,
would make you'd have to keep the suits on because you lose too much
yeah,
water
fluid
if
draining.
you're doing
Yeah,
that.
like, yeah, like if you got some wop wop wop,
Right.
you should probably be. Michael says, Worm Hub, red worm tube. Yeah, man, I'm sure they exist. You should go seek them out. I'm sure there's Dune porn. There's got to be. It's Rule 34, right? It's Rule
You
34.
thought of it, yeah.
Yeah. Also, Robo had a question last time about like that distinction of animals versus humans, and I was like really doing my standard thing of like rambling and not really answering his question. So I went and found a Reddit post that summed it up nicely, and I'm just going to quote from them. He's drawing a distinction between people who make use of reasoning, intellect, self-control, etc., and people who act based on instinct. The former quality is exclusive to humans, and the latter we share with animals. Well, that was pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's my corrections corner. Thanks for being here. Judah says they get fucked up on melange and go cray with rounding bases. Yep, nice. Worm hamster. Michael. He does have a humiliation fetish. I can feel it. He's waiting for me to just slam him down. Video. All right, so we begin with a Bene Gesserit proverb. Any road followed precisely to its end leads precisely nowhere. Climb the mountain just a little bit to test that it's a mountain. From the top of the mountain, you cannot see the mountain. To me, that's just like, it's all about the journey.
Right.
Yeah. Is that what you took away?
Like can't see the forest for the trees.
That's it. That's the one. Yeah. That's exactly what I took away. Were there any quotes in this like section that we read that really stuck out to you this time?
So I liked how quickly I did write one down. I wrote the long shadows stabbed down the hall. And like we get in this one, there's a lot of like violent imagery that I think is you could have said it certain ways and you went with a violent word for it.
Yeah.
But I think there's this whole like foreboding because we know what a bad position Leto's in.
Yep.
It's just he's not acting like it at all.
Yeah, 100%. Oh man, so you and I spoke about this in the Facebook chat, off video, obviously, but like off camera. His duality, the Duke's duality in this entire section is really prominent. And we spoke about that last time. Like, it's obviously a lot of like reflections and mirrors, and like no one's necessarily right. We're all just different. We're trying different methods to get to different goals. But he's especially prominent in this one. So I'll jump into the story, and feel free to pop in wherever you like, chat and Glynis. But so we jump back a little bit in time, this section, because last time we ended off with Paul's assassination attempt on his life from the Hunter Seeker drone. And we go back to a little bit before that happens, where Jessica is like exploring the roof of the home, and there's one room that she hasn't seen, and it's got a palm lock on it, which is like a big deal, super technology. She knows how to open it because Bene Gesserit training. She opens it up, has a look inside, and there's a fucking like fountain and greenhouse in there. And she's like, holy shit, there's so much water in here. There's water enough to like probably maintain 1,000 Fremen if we wanted to for like years. And she's kind of shocked and appalled. Then she finds like a note addressed to her within the space from this chick called Margot Lady Fenring. who's another Bene Gesserit. She left it in essentially braille on a plant with a note like sort of below it, and she gets a warning similar to the one that Paul just received from Shout Out Mapes. And like at this exact second, basically, she's like, "Oh my god, I have to finish this warning and then go get Paul." And then Paul like bursts into the room and he's got the drone in his hand and he like submerges it into the water to short it out. So he puts it in the fountain. They both like confirm with each other that they received messages about a traitor. Paul even suggests the doctor at this point, and Jessica rules him out, which is very frustrating. What the fuck, right?
Don't even consider it.
Yeah, like I know he's hiding something, but he's our friend. So like, don't even, because I guess she in her head she's like, this dude lost his partner. Like, there's no way that he would be on the Harkonnen side, not knowing that there's a potential that one is still alive, right?
Right.
That's
I think that's so. It's so short-sighted.
Yeah, that's like the one gap that I've seen with Jessica so far. You know, like the other question
it just really shows she maybe cares about him more than she thinks, because like when Leto dismisses Jessica, it's like because he loves her. So I think this is like showing that Jessica loves Yui.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, that's right on. Dakota, that was ridiculous. Hey, Dakota, by the way, welcome. Did I say hi before? I meant to. I appreciate you joining along with us and like enjoying the journey. But yeah, like it's frustrating when you're reading it and you have all the exposition and you're like, no, just like consider it for a second. It's always the way in like so many stories, you know, like one small piece of information would stop a lot of heartache.
Right.
Yeah. But you know, that's how it goes, I guess.
So I shouldn't keep secrets.
See, Glynis is wise as fuck. Listen to Bene Gesserit Glynis. They know the way, and you should just not lie. Just don't lie.
Yes.
Even by omission, just tell everyone everything. That'd be great. Open book.
All the time. Yep.
Yep, I'm down with that. I like that. So what happens next? Paul suggests, like the doctor, Jessica says in return, like it could be enemies attempting to sow division in the ranks, which is a legitimate strategy. And one that they're certainly doing with Jessica. I feel they're trying to make the Duke feel like Jessica's betraying him, even though she's been his concubine for like 15 years at this point, 16 years at this point. She's had plenty of chances, is the way that the Duke puts it, you know, like that if she was going to do it, she probably would have done it by now. It's the argument.
Yeah. Well, and their big argument for her is like, well, we don't know who her parents are, but like she doesn't either. And
so when he says that to, is it Hawat that gives him the potential idea? Yeah, Hawat. So Thufir, is that how you say his first name?
Thufir like Hawat.
Thufir. Okay, thank you. Thufir is like, what if she does know? Like, what if she's found out who her parents are and this is the motivation for her betrayal? Which I guess I can see, but again, I feel like this is a massive like gap in his his normal abilities. But they're all, the thing is too, what they're trying to get across a lot in this book, or what Herbert's trying to get across a lot, is they're all under immense strain right now. They're not performing at their best necessarily because they're all like on high alert all the time. None of them have been really sleeping. They've just like moved planets. We've all moved house. We all know how that feels. Moving planets.
Not to compare this to another like directed at teen girls series, but like we've been rewatching Buffy, and like it reminds me of in season 4 when like Spike Yoko's all of them, and like they were able, this only works because they were able to be broken up. Like normally this is a tight, intact group, but you've just thrown everyone into a brand new situation.
Yep.
And added in like the Fremen, the Spice, there's all these new cards, and like now is when you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything is back to Buffy.
What was that? Sorry, say it again. Relate everything back to Buffy.
Leads back to Buffy.
Absolutely. Why not? It's a quintessential. It's the same as Dune in my mind. Is like it forged this entire genre essentially. And I have a question for you around that later. Because really, like, think about how many female-led supernatural TV shows were on at the time. I think it was just the one from memory.
I think like Xena is the only one.
Oh
I
yeah,
can
we had
think of.
Xena. Yeah, we
Yeah,
had Xena, which was a spin-off of fucking Hercules.
that's true.
Like it wasn't like shit was just here's Xena. It was here's a
Right.
character that's been proven popular from a male-driven TV show that will give a chance because she had so much fan feedback. You know what I mean? Like anyway, I'll have a rant about that later. So the guard informs them they found they come up and they're like, hey, Jessica Poore, we found the dude that was controlling the Hunter Seeker drone. He was in the basement. He looked to be a native. He died upon capture. We can't question him. They ask them to stay in that greenhouse room while they like re-sweep the house. And while they're like chilling out and they're waiting for the guard to do the thing, Jessica sees them like signal beacons communicating across the basin, which is like terrifying because they're not obviously not using comms because like the Atreides are on the comms and the Fremen are on the comms. Right. So they're like, you know, the flashlight scenes in movies where they're Morse coding back and forth. It's that kind of shit across the desert.
Very spooky.
Very spooky. What would you do in Jessica's position here?
I mean, my first instinct when I'm scared is to always just pee immediately.
Yeah. Same though.
Should not be helpful in this situation. No, I think like probably with everything here, I would just like immediately tell Howard.
Yeah.
Like let him know everything because I think up until you really get to know Kynes, he's the smartest person there.
100%. Yeah, I agree. I can see. Yeah, I think that's a big issue, right? Is like, and again, we're talking about the missing information that always becomes a problem in stories. It's because they don't directly communicate with each other much, and it's because they've both got different duties going on, which we'll get to actually in a sec. Because we then cut to Duke Leto. We get an internal monologue from him. He's homesick for Caladan. He's angry at his son being attacked. He's disparaged that it was a native because he's keen to like get the Fremen on side, and like he thinks they're the key to him surviving Arrakis, right? So he thinks about this part is interesting to me. He thinks about the hypocrisy of the Emperor's like signs that he's got plastered around indicating peace, and how the Emperor secretly loads those who choose to live outside his system. And like the Fremen, he's like, I don't have time for you. You don't like play at my Imperial games, so fuck you. Which is, you know, makes sense, I guess, if you're the Emperor. Leto is thinking like he wants to do away with class separation altogether. And I said this to you, I was like, isn't it ironic that he has that thought, but then when he meets up with Kynes in a few scenes, he's like, this dude isn't calling us by our proper titles. I'm going to have to do something about that.
Like,
classic.
I think he really more so likes the idea of doing away with it, but I want to still be everyone's boss. Like, because it was my idea, I still get to tell everyone what to do, right?
Yeah. That's 100% it. Like he's got this weird, like Jessica describes it well, right? He's got this like half that it's really molded by his father, which is like cold, calculating, bossy, mean. Like he fucks with the Harkonnens constantly, even though he's like on the other half of him, he's like wants to rule by respect and not fear, which is really strange to me watching it. But I guess like a lot of leaders are probably like that. What do you think?
Right. Do as I say, not as I do.
That's it. That's exactly it. And it's cool, like, I think the reason that I've got this written down further on, like, I think the reason that Paul is such a likable protagonist is because he's constantly learning. Like, he doesn't presume to know anything. He's looking at how his father's behaving and he's going, okay, this works, this doesn't work. I'm going to take some of that and leave some of that behind. And that's like a decent human being. That's what you want.
Yep.
In my opinion. Yeah.
I think the older we get, like, the more, what is it, after 35 or something, like, it's almost impossible to, like, develop a new interest or change fundamentally. Because, like, you just get set in your ways, and Paul isn't there yet. Like, he's clay still.
Yeah. Yep. He's very young. Like, you keep forgetting because he acts like such an adult.
Right.
And he's just a 15-year-old. Like, I don't know if you remember what you were like at 15. I was an asshole. Still figuring myself out. Yeah. I was doing all kinds of weird shit, like experimenting and figuring out who I was, and this dude is like really measured and really controlled. It's kind of cool to watch. Yep.
Mm.
All right, so Gurney Halleck shows up with his boys. He lands. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Whoop, whoop.
Gurney.
And yeah, he's a fucking rad dude. Here we see Leto doing what he does best. He swallows his own feelings. He masks the confidence. He gets shit done. He's like, he sends some men back to base to, I guess, like I think they said 300 of their finest to sort of protect them against any further assassination attempts. He organizes the movements and protocol of the rest. He make sure they know about water usage, make sure they know about the planet's dangers. He sends Halleck to try and convince the experienced spice collectors who are waiting to leave the planet by guilds. He says you can pay them a higher rate than the Harkonnens, no more than 30% if you can, or something like that.
Like,
yeah. Because he's like, they're important. I want to keep as many as I possibly can. Like, that's going to be essential to our spice gathering. But we're also like in the hole right now financially, so you gotta play it like diplomatically. That's right. So Paul arrives to attend a detailed strategy meeting. Hawat, once he finds out, Thafir finds out about the attempt, he offers his resignation for his perceived failure. He's refused, which is great. Paul, yeah, he's so fucking cute. He's got like a real good sense of, he's got real moral integrity, this man, you know? He's like, I really want to take care of this family. That's my one job. And is he the one that's been doing it for 3 generations, or is that Halleck? Yeah. So Thafir's been around for a really long time. He's an old dude. And Paul like mentions this at one point. He's like, he thinks like how much rests on one old man.
Right.
Which is so often the case in our world. Like, how old is Biden? You know, like I'm not saying like he's going to save the world or anything, but there are these like major political figures that are quite aged, and we're expecting them to be, you know, like these, have the strength and tenacity of someone much younger. So it still happens today.
And like, you know, to understand changing technology.
Yeah, amen. Amen to that. So we learn a lot within these pages of the strategy meeting. There's a rundown on equipment, bases. Mostly everything is broken, of course, because it was all left by Michael says, hey, thanks for making me feel old. Sorry, Michael. That's it. You're set in your ways. You're concrete.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, we're not arguing that. You can definitely change who you are after 35. But it's certainly more difficult than when you've got a spongier brain. Yeah, that's it.
Be anything you want to be, Michael Malone.
Michael Malone's going to be a successful comic horror writer. I can feel it in my bones.
Yeah, no.
It's going to be great. Yeah, keep your eye peeled. Okay, so rundown on equipment bases. Atreides implement a Fremen ambassador following an altercation with the Harkonnens, which is Duncan, Idaho. So Duncan actually enters midway through this meeting. Eva's here. Hello, darlings. Hello, baby. How you going? How's your day? Eva makes me happy to say that. Just like that. I get like a little burst of warm fuzzy. So Duncan, he comes in midway through this strategy meeting, and he's like, hey, we just intercepted some Harkonnens that were dressed as Fremen, and a Fremen leader is actually there with them. I forget this dude's name. Do you remember it?
It's written down here somewhere.
Thank you.
Stilgar?
Right.
Was that it?
I think that's it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah, and he's like an intimidating guy. Like, he comes in and he's like sort of bossing the Duke around a bit, and everyone at the table's like, oh, what the fuck? You can't speak to him like that, whatever.
Right.
And there's like another Chris knife, right? Because what happens is the Harkonnens were trying to get this dude's like Chris knife, and they killed this actual Fremen. And Duncan goes to him and he's like, what is this dude trying to hide? And he picks up this Chris knife and takes it and brings it into this meeting, and everyone wants to see it because They talk about how it's made from the tooth of a sandworm, which is fucking cool. They glow somewhat. Only Fremen allow like their own people to look at them, and everyone's like, "Yeah, let's whip it out, have a look." And the leader dude is like, "On my terms, you can. I'll allow you to like earn the right to see it," basically, which is fair. It's fair. They find out there's like actually a bounty for these from the Harkonnen. They want Peter Piper. He wants. Yeah, thank you. Pida wants to buy one for 1 million Solaris, which is a huge amount of cash.
I did a literal like gasp at that because I'm like, wait, because he's addicted to the spice, so like he's got the blue eyes. So yeah, like putting that, I've read this before, but putting that together for the second time, just like,
isn't it great? I've had I was saying this to my parents yesterday. We were hanging out for breakfast, and Dad was like, "Yeah, I've read it like 30 years ago," and so has Mum, and Mum's rereading it at the moment with us. And it's funny, like how even though you've gone through the realizations before, they're just as powerful on a reread. And you still like pick up. It's the same as any good media. You pick up new shit every time because obviously he wants this Chris knife. Exactly what you said. Pida has like blue eyes. He can kind of blend into being a Fremen, but if he has a Chris knife, he can 100% blend into being a Fremen. And that is like a really dangerous thing for the Harkonnens to have, is like a Fremen spy, basically. Michael says, anyone else a sucker for that Dune knife salute thing? That's going to be my new pandemic non-contact greeting, obviously without the knife. No, do it with the knife. Do it with the knife. I like it. Yeah. That's dope. I love that. We should all start doing that when we start the videos.
Plus, like, it'll help people keep 6 feet away from you. They'll be like, that guy's got a knife. I'll stand over here.
I love that. That works in so many ways. Definitely do that. I can't wait for the new movie. I'm so excited. What else have we got? So Paul takes notes on what works. We discuss the Judge of the Change kinds and his importance as the Imperium Arbiter / ecologist. But the scene kind of ends with confusion and bitterness around Thufir, like pushing back on the Duke. The Duke's like, what about those Imperial bases that aren't being used? We should use those. Let's get Kynes to give us a location. And Thufir's like, that's a bad idea. Let's not piss off the Emperor now. He's already trying to kill us. And and Kynes we kind of like need to be on side with because he's the Arbiter. He's the guy that's like trying to keep the peace between, or somewhat, that's on the outside. He's trying to keep the peace between Harkonnens and the Atreides. So Paul, at this point, the end of this meeting, he finally considers the idea that they might lose because he like senses his father's desperation and he's like, wow, we might not actually survive. How did you feel about that scene, Glynis?
Honestly, I think from having been in like other shitty situations with shitty odds, I think that Paul is recognizing this incredibly early. Because like if it were me, I think it's really so much easier to put the blinders on and to trust, your dad that's always had everything and your mom that's always had, like, they've already been 10 steps ahead of everyone. So like, why wouldn't they be this time? I think he's really insightful.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I really enjoy actually all the shade toward the Harkonnens in this scene. There's like a few quips that they get in because the sense that we're getting is like everyone's, like I said, everyone's tired. We've all just moved planets. We're trying to get a sense of this new environment. So he's got his like strategy team in there. He's like, all right, guys, there's coffee. I know like we need to pep up. Let's like get started. We got a lot of work to do. It's like a company takeover type meeting, like
it felt like Mad Men.
It was exactly like Mad Men, yeah. That board meeting type style, yeah, where he's like, all right, here's everything that's broken. Here's everything we want to change. Here's how it used to run. Like, there's a whole lot of that stuff going on. So Leto says something to Thufir like, your only failure was overestimating the Harkonnens. They are simpletons that hatched a simple plan, which I thought was funny. We also learned that the Harkonnens were raking in from Arrakis 10 billion Solaris a year. which is unprecedented wealth. Like when they put that figure out, the whole table's like, what? How much money? It would be like a Disney meeting where they're like, oh yeah, we just made, I don't know, however much Disney makes in a year. Like just unbelievable amount of wealth. Yeah. Like unfathomable.
Like, well, they're clearly not going to leave this planet then.
That's right. And that's when I think it like cements for people. They're like, oh, they would not just give this up. That's too much money to just give up, even if the emperor told you to. So that's when they start realizing, like, okay, there's going to be blood. There's going to be a fight. We're going to have to like dig in and protect ourselves here. So like everyone's starting to like the weight of it's starting to fall down on people's shoulders. So basically they will not be making anywhere near as much because the Atreides have decided instead of treating people like slaves, they're going to treat them more like people.
Weird.
Which is nice, but it makes you less money. So, they've also got to fix all the broken shit that the Harkonnens left them, because obviously the Harkonnens weren't going to give them like functional spice factories, and they just left them with all this trash. So everyone's like, cool, we got a fuck ton of work to do. Another interesting thing we learn here is that the shield technology cannot be used in the desert unless you want to be nommed by a sandworm.
I like how everyone just side eyes their shields.
Yeah.
Oh, honey.
Because like they respond to vibrational frequencies, right? Which is why they say the Fremen always say like wherever there's spice, there's a worm, and it's because like when they're harvesting spice, they're using these spice factories which are sending out ripples which the sandworms come to. So it's only a matter of time before you get what do they call it, a worm sighting?
Sure.
So yeah, is that when they like?
I did not write that down.
Oh, that's all right. I think that's like what they call it when they. It's like worm sign. Worm sign. That's the one.
Worm sign.
Yeah. Wait. So worm sign is just like you see the massive ripples of sand as like it's kind of like if you've ever seen Princess Bride when the sand is moving and rippling and stuff. That's the kind of movement that it makes with these huge worms under the ground coming up towards the factories and shit.
I could not believe how chill they are about it with like on the radios. Oh yeah, no, and then that'll be about 24. Like, how are you guys not freaking out?
Yeah, I guess they're just so used to that threat being there always, because Paul even, so we're skipping ahead a little bit, right? Like there's a bit where they observe some spice collection after these meetings that the Duke attends, and they do see like a sandworm engulf a factory, which is like the coolest shit ever.
Yeah.
Scary as hell. Yeah. It's fucking dope. But exactly what Glynis said, like the Duke is flying the Thopter and they're like up in the sky and they're observing. And there's supposed to be this carryall that collects the factory up and all the spice with it, and they get them to a safe location when there's worm sign. But the carryall disappears. And so the Duke is like, well, we got to evacuate everyone. And he comes down and like gets all the people that he can out of the. I mean, they're all just like he's got to really push them to leave the spice behind, which is really ridiculous. They're like, I don't know, the spice though, I might die, but it's worth it.
Right.
Yeah, it's really
like,
strange.
are you sure the cereal might show up? Like,
yeah, that's right. Like it's. Yeah, they're just so. Anyway, Paul even asked that question of Kynes when they're flying. He's like, has anyone ever tried to like eliminate the sandworms? And Kynes says something like, it's not possible because
you have to electrocute every single segment, because like if you just do one, it'll stay alive.
That's right. So they've got these like rings. Yeah, they're kind of like trees. Like they've got these rings of their body, and so exactly what Glynis said, you have to electrical pulse every single ring of that worm. How are you going to get that equipment? The equipment you have to even just get spice is like so degraded from the crazy conditions of the planet. Michael says the movie Tremors is now a Dune in my head. A Dune movie in my head. I love that because it totally works. Like there's so much, like Beetlejuice.
Those are kind of the same movie. What was that? I never thought about that, but those are like, yeah, that's kind of the same movie. Yeah,
it's kind of the same movie. Thanks, Michael. Thanks for pointing that out. I love that. What else do we find out? So, yeah, the quote is they always come. It's always a matter of getting in and out with as much as quickly as possible. in this strategy meeting, they say that, and then they're like, "Oh, classic Harkonnen way," which to me was like they're kind of saying that they're bad at sex, but they're also saying that they rape planets. I took it both ways there.
It's not good.
Yeah, it's not good. So blah 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 blah. The other great houses we find out are doing nothing, which is exactly what the Robo says. Oh, you're Dune fans. How many grains of sand are in your average sand dune? Fake Dune fans. Average sand dune? What's the size of an average sand dune? Which country are we talking about? Be more specific.
What kind of sand are we talking about? I mean,
that's right.
Some is more coarse than others.
Of course, it's rough. Gets everywhere. Oh, I love that. You made me laugh, Robo. Okay, so the other great houses, guess what? Just like the Duke predicted, they're doing fuck all because they're like, we might lose our position. So they just don't help. They're like, yeah, we like you, Duke. Most people like the Duke because he's a decent dude. But, like, they're just doing nothing. They're just hanging out.
It's so, like, you know, like, I don't know. It's just when, like, everyone just lets someone bully this one kid because, like, well, I don't want to get made fun of, so... Like, it's so...
It's that.
Do the right thing.
Exactly that. Yeah, come on. Come on, guys. Especially when they say that they're, like, allies and have good relationships, and then they're just like, yeah, but we'll just wait. We'll just wait and see.
I'm probably skipping ahead somewhere. But even, like, one of the quotes is the Emperor. The Emperor saying, like, yeah, Leto's great. I wish you could have married him. So, like, even the Emperor likes this guy, and he's not willing. Like, you have arguably, like, not all the power, but you have a third of the power in this galaxy. And you're like, well.
That's exactly right. Michael, sorry, I was laughing at his quote, English sand dunes are a sad sight to behold. Prove it. Photos or it didn't exist. So there's another back-to-back meeting after this where Hawat suggests Jessica could be the traitor, which we talked about based on an intercepted burnt message. Leto knows that it's not, but he plays cool. Inside, he's seething with anger, and he senses the attempt to, like, sow division again. He actually orders straight after this an attack on Getty Prime with some of the Fremen and Idaho's men. And it's mostly a diversion in his mind. Like, he's like, if we pretend that we're fighting back a little bit up there, we might get the advantage down here. So that's the idea behind that. But he also takes Paul aside and he's like, hey, just in case I do die, can you let Jessica know that I never doubted her? And Paul's like, wait, why don't you just, like, tell her yourself? And he's like, no, I want her reactions to be genuine. Which, you know, I kind of get, but also...
Right. Sounds like a heck of a marriage.
It's funny because they do love each other, but, like, so we mentioned this last episode, right? They're not actually married, and the reason they've decided not to marry is twofold. One, they don't want Jessica to be tied to certain duties because, like, he loves her and he wants her to have her freedom. Two, it's better for them to have that as an open playing card in their politics, because if they have the potential of the Duke marrying one of the other houses, it just makes things, it's another bargaining chip on the table, right?
This feels so like George R.R. Martin meets Jane Austen.
It's so much, that is so perfect. You nailed it on the head. I love that. Because, like, it's a thing that comes up for both of them, right? Like, the Duke is like, well, fuck, what kind of man am I trying to be if I can't even marry the girl that I love? And it comes up in his mind. Yeah, and he feels guilty for it. Of course he would. And then Jessica gets, like, these flashes of bitterness, like when she's reading the note from her gal in the greenhouse. She's like, well, this chick got married. Good for her. You know, like, it's still a source of bitterness for both of them, even though it's a mutual agreement. There's still, like, residual.
I sort of wonder, like, give me a Dune what if? Like, what would have happened if they had just said, like, fuck it, let's get married? Like, maybe maybe Leda would have survived an attempt like this. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, because you could argue that they're essentially married in everything but the title. They still behave like a married couple. They still interact like a married couple. They still love each other like a married couple. Yeah, something to think about. What What else do we got? Oh yeah, this quote I liked. There is probably no more terrible instant of enlightenment than the one in which you discover your father is a man with human flesh.
I wrote that down too.
Ah, buddies. What did you take away from that?
See, I wrote down like some, I think it could either be taken to be speaking about like when you realize your parents are mortal, which like if you're me, I'm like, how did you not realize that since always? Because I was always like terrified my parents were gonna die, so it'd be a weird thing. Anyway. Or does that mean like your parents are fallible and can be like outsmarted?
Yeah.
For me, I think more the second.
Yep. I thought it was potentially a mix of both because, like, yeah, the mortality aspect is really something that most people, I think, based on like my experience, obviously, don't really grasp until they're like teenagers or adults and have like experienced some form of grief or some form of death. Because like till
I
then
just
you're
had
like,
a lot of anxiety as a kid then.
that's true, that's true. And I'm sure like that's a common thing too. I don't know. Tell us in the chat, like, were you afraid of your parents dying growing up? Because to me, it was like a massive realization. Like I was so sheltered and taken care of by my family that it wasn't until I was a teenager that I was like, oh shit, they can like die any second. All of us, any of us. You know what I mean? Like it's just a fact. It's just the way life
Like, I'm
goes.
not gonna lie, growing up watching ER actually gave me a shit ton of panic attacks because, like, anytime someone's parent, like, something bad happened to a parent in that show, I would just freak out because I'm like, well, what if I accidentally hit my dad with my car someday?
Yeah, and like you could, I arguably like the Disney Renaissance. How many fucking Disney main characters had their parents die? You know, it was a constant plot point. I don't know if like Disney's made up of orphans or whatever, but it was a
I think
constant
it's
plot
just
point.
easier to animate one parent than two.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
A whole lot of
Uh,
orphans because of that bottom line.
Ace is here, by the way. How you going? How you going? Beautiful. How's life? It's nice to see you. Thanks for being here. Oh yeah, so this is when we get to meet Kynes. How fucking cool is Kynes? Woo!
Kynes who, like, I think really arguably should be the person in charge of this planet.
Agreed.
And I think
100%.
he knows that.
Yeah. He certainly acts that way. Like he understands a lot of facets of the planet, right? He's basically been, it says that he's gone native. That's how they like describe him. So he's essentially Fremen. Like he's accepted by the Fremen. He behaves like a Fremen. He understands the Fremen cultures and traditions and ideals. He's also, he likes to refer to himself as a planetologist rather than an ecologist. And he's decided that he loves Arrakis and he wants to, his ultimate goal we find out is like not necessarily terraforming, but making it more habitable and having more water and better lives for everyone and more plants and yeah, which
And he
is that
really
bad?
doesn't seem like he wants to. I love when it gets brought up and he's just like, could we talk about something else? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
I don't think he wants to share his plans with you guys.
yeah. Like he,
And two, that garden gets brought up. That's like a
yeah,
turning point for them.
yep. So he, like, immediately as we meet him, we're getting his like internal thoughts, and he's like, "So the Emperor's ordered me to betray these dudes," and it's like, okay, so you're just another one, another pawn in the game. That's cool. Like, that's to be expected at this point. But he's not necessarily reluctant. He's like, I'm gonna get some information and see what these people are like. And so that this is when they go on their spice collection expedition. They're gonna watch how spice is collected and figure out if they like the methods and what they want to change, what needs to improve. He keeps remembering these flashes of this Arrakis prophecy when he's observing Paul and his actions. So Paul like intuitively fits himself with the still suit correctly for the first time, which is really difficult to do, they say. So,
Right. I do
yeah,
want
that's
to point out if this like he does the still suit and like he will see through stuff. I'm just saying, I feel like now Paul would be a Mary Sue.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I can see
But
that. It's
there's a
interesting.
prophecy.
Yeah, that's right. It's interesting you say that because, like I said to you last time, there are some people that read this today that get mad that it's like, well, why is it a man that has to save the day again? You know?
Because it was 1965. That's why.
Well, it's that, but it's also like so many other aspects of this book are so progressive. I feel like the way that he
Also,
writes
wait till we
women.
get to Cheney. Just
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Like I know like the boys hate it when I make this argument, like it was a different time, because there are people that lived in those times that still didn't act like arseholes. And I understand that argument too, but it's also like, I don't know, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that we'll all regret going along with in 20 to 50 years' time, is all I'm saying.
oh,
Yeah.
dude, there's stuff now that like there are arguments I've made about maybe certain wars that happened in this country that I would not be like proud to have played back to me now. But
100%.
like that's because like I had people that were willing to be like, "Hey, have you ever thought of this?" Or "Hey, you sound like an asshole." Um, and like I think a lot of like writers, like that are some of the most egregious offenders. I think all those writers had were other similar demographic people patting them on the back and saying like, "Oh my God, you're so good."
Yep.
That like, why would you change or think differently when no one's telling you to do that or why it might be important?
Yeah, that's why discourse is so important, and respectful discourse at that. Um, and I think this book does a good job of like, here's how maybe you should try and interact with people to get your ideas across, because that is definitely an issue we have today, right? Is everyone can be so antagonistic, and it
And
solidifies people's beliefs
there's a
rather
great
than.
example of that in the meeting when they first meet Stilgar, and the Duke says something like, or maybe it's Paul or the Duke says something very uh diplomatic, and Stilgar
Yes.
spits on the table, and everyone gets up and draws swords. But like Kynes is like, whoa, 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 think about it. And Paul is like, it's a desert. That's obviously a good thing. But
Yeah, yeah.
everybody else there is ready to like split this dude's throat, spill his water over like what was actually a really nice gesture.
Yeah, like if you
Um,
spit, it's a sign of respect. Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, was it the fear or something that says it in that strategy meeting? He's like, guys, calm down. Remember how precious water is? Like,
yeah.
yeah, man, it was so good. Yeah, that's such a good example. Like, just because it from the outside to you maybe looks disrespectful, like take a moment, think about it, have a breathe, like just chill.
Why? I think as a
Yeah,
species, we need to ask why 100% more often.
100%. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so kinds. Let's have a look at what I've written here. While they're learning the procedure, Leto spots worm sign, rippling sand indicating movement of a worm. Whoever spots first gets a bonus. So Leto asks that this be split amongst the crew instead. The carrier set to retrieve the factory and the workers has disappeared, so Leto launches a rescue mission, leaving the factory to the mouth of the worm. Scary as shit, A+. Leto is angry. He's angry with the threat to lives due to what he sees as ineffective process, the loss of spice, and Kynes being only as helpful as he must, because he like when they're flying he brings up the imperial basis thing again, and Kynes is like really tight-lipped about it. But Kynes like finds himself, there's a line from Kynes in here somewhere that I haven't written down, which is like uh, a man is always led to the place where he's going to die, something like that.
Yeah, with the when they see the Fremen where the
Yeah,
worm came. Yep.
yeah, which is obviously like, so the Duke like turns and stares at him with that, because he's like, yeah, I understand, I'm gonna die here, like I'm at least let me try and survive. you know that's the way I don't know, that's the way that I interpreted it.
No, yeah, that makes more sense.
because he has this like strong reaction to it, right? The Duke is like, get fucked,
Because
he's
I
like,
was just thinking like, I guess I was also reading graphic novel about like miners, and I was kind of thinking like it's about the people who like get the spice, that like that's the career you're drawn to, even though it's like people who want to play professional football, even knowing like you're gonna get brain damage, but
yeah,
like
I
it's
still
what you
think
want
that's
to do,
correct. I think it's both. I think he's like using, it's that same like double meaning thing they always do in politics, where it's like, I'm talking about this, but I'm actually talking about this.
right? I don't
Yeah,
think Frank Herbert ever wrote a word without having at least like two reasons to write that word.
yeah. It feels very heavily edited, like in a good way. It feels like he's gone back and exactly what you said. He's like, okay, does this need to be there? Does it say these things that I want to get across? Yeah, he's definitely put a lot of thought and effort in. A says, When I spat on you, it was full of respect. Thank you so much. Spit in my mouth, Daddy. Michael says, so all those past people who spat on me in the past respect me. I never knew. Michael says, thanks, mate. The chat's so funny. I love the chat. So yeah, dichotomy of Duke in this section is really interesting because he obviously cares deeply for human lives. He saved the Fremen, but he also like loathes the Harkonnens and wants to see them suffer. So we get to see
he's very concerned with preserving life, but doesn't seem terribly concerned with preserving his own.
Yep. Like, do you think he expects death at this point?
I think so. I don't know if it's even conscious, because all his talk, like he talks like someone who's going to survive, but he thinks like someone who knows he's going to die.
Yep. It's really fascinating to me because he's like, it's like a last ditch effort from someone, you know, like he's like, okay, I fucked up. I made this decision. Might as well just run with it till I die.
Yep.
It's really fascinating. Like, and he's giving it his everything. He's like, well, I might as well fight. Ace, I don't think I can put that comment up on the screen. But it's funny because like recently, I don't know if have you seen it's heavy. Michael says when cats hiss and spit, is that respect too? That happens all the time. Humans and animals respect the shit out of me. Do your cats hiss and spit, Glynis? Have they ever hiss and spit?
Okay, my tuxedo boy doesn't. He only knows like purr and howl of loneliness. The Siamese cat, the bottle-fed Siamese cat, is so talkative. And yeah, like she hisses. She has a variety of hisses for a variety. Some are angry, some are like she just gets overstimulated. And like she hisses at her own paws. She's very loud.
Yeah. That's so fascinating. Like, so I don't know if I've told anyone this, but Phantom is really specifically afraid of men. Like she can handle, so if I have like my sister and my mum come around, she'll come out and have a cuddle. If my dad's there, my brother came over once and he like tried to look at her in the cupboard and she hissed at him and I've never seen her hiss at anything in my life. So it's really, I don't know. Cats be weird, man. That's all I'm saying.
Cats do be weird. I have yet to see one cat that I'm like, that's that's how a cat should act. They're all just like slightly. Their cats are kind of the Alfa Romeo of pets. Like there's just something wrong with all of them.
There's gonna be so many quotes from this show that I just want to get like tattooed on my body. I think that's one of them. Michael says, I hiss at parts of my anatomy too. Yeah, I understand that. That's like, yeah, that's standard for. I think most people.
My stomach all the time.
Get it.
Well, it's terribly loud. So.
Oh yeah, I can relate. Why?
Right.
Okay. Here's what I've written. Let's see if it resonates. Why are so many of us fascinated by real world politics when, in my opinion, they do not serve their function of representing the people? Why was Game of Thrones such a phenomenon apart from the titties and the dragons? When you have a dinner scene filled with allies, hidden enemies, when you understand some underlying motivations and know some secrets, the interactions are absolutely thrilling, dangerous, life-threatening. Language is the game. Your choice of words is chess. This dinner scene really relays to us the importance of the Bene Gesserit teaching, statesmanship, negotiations. A lot is revealed here about a lot of different characters. So we get like our first like political dinner scene where the Atreides are like, hey, guess what? We're the new bosses. We're going to have people around. We're going to make some relations. But they don't fully understand everyone's relationships and history yet. So they're kind of figuring it out as they go. I loved this bit of the book.
I think I'm going to do it again. For this one, like, I can get Game of Thrones, absolutely. But for me, this was, again, like, this was so Jane Austen for me.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's a really good book called I think Jane Austen and Game Theory. And it's by a mathematician who, like, makes the argument that Jane Austen actually invented game theory, like, 100 years before mathematicians did. Because, yeah, it's that, like, you have a certain number of people in a room, and they each have a different motivation, and they may not know each other's motivations. And every single action and spoken word is for a reason, and it's trying to figure out something, or it's trying to like move a chess piece, like everything. And that was, yeah, that was 100% here. To the point that I'm like, I think Frank Herbert read Jane Austen.
Yeah, I can see that. And like, why wouldn't you? I love, I don't know, like everyone's a fan of Jane Austen in this chat, but
I think she gets thrown in romance and people ignore it, but like if you love verbal sparring, there is no better writer for a good verbal sparring
that's
contest.
what
Like,
makes it so
ooh.
romantic to me, you know, like
Yep.
can you please stop knocking over my light? Thank you.
And like 90% of her couples actually hate each other. Like, it's not, they're kind of assholes to each other all the time
Yeah,
until the end.
yeah, yeah.
Like, surprise, love.
Because like that's the whole thing that they're arguing here too. Like there are some bitter interactions between Jessica and Leto, but there's a fine line between love and hate. We see that
Yep.
all the time in media. And when you start to love someone and really understand and see someone, you understand all their pain points, you understand their triggers, you can press them if you want to. Most of the time you do because they are giving you feelings. So yeah, the sparring, exactly what you said, is here tenfold. There's so much stuff going on. I didn't take many notes here just because like if you've read it, you get it.
Yep.
If you haven't, you should. um, at this point, Kynes likes the Duke. He senses fulfillment of the prophecy through Jessica and Paul. He's not quite sure yet, but he's like, hey, maybe this could be real. In particular, Jessica's response about having the greenhouse set up in their home because she gets reamed by, well, not her specifically, but later gets asked about it. Like, oh, if you want to fucking make the planet better, why do you have this massive resource that you're not?
What is that? That fucking Sook or whatever. Sook?
Yeah. Is that the banker dude?
Oh,
Like, yeah, revolting human being.
I just wanted someone to slap it.
I hope it happens. It's going to be so satisfying if it does. But yeah, he's trying to make the Duke look bad. And the Duke's like, well, I don't even know what to say because he's like been dealing with other shit. And Jessica hops in and she's like, well, actually, we want to have water more readily available across the planet and reforming to house different life. And we're going to keep it as like a trust to Arrakis, the people of Arrakis, until we can achieve that dream, which is like the perfect answer in that situation. It's very diplomatic. And Jessica's feeling like kind of, because at this moment, Duke's like trying to pretend that she maybe is betraying him. So he's like being real cold to her and stuff. And she's like trying to do her part, but she's also like, why is he mad at me? And he actually leaves. So he goes to deal with some shit. The Duke gets called away and he's like, Paul, you have to take my place. And while all this is happening, it's funny because he knows that Jessica is picking up on more shit than him, and things are clicking for him much slower and like at half of the things that she's understanding, he's understanding. Yep. And she knows that the bankers are Harkonnen agent, based on his speech patterns. It's Getty Prime speech pattern, right? And so she's like trying to figure out like who's he using here, and there's a still suit manufacturer and his daughter, and she like sees through that immediately. Like the daughter is there as a potential sexual lure for Paul, but Paul's too smart for that shit.
Right.
All this stuff going on.
Your boobs have no effect on me.
That's right. Which is interesting to me, right? Because like that just speaks to the effectiveness of his training, because he wasn't really exposed to other people his age, he said, on Caladan. So like this is kind of the first time he's had that offer thrown in his face as a 15-year-old boy, and he's still like, nah.
I mean, it does seem like a much more sex positive world. So I sort of wonder like if he hasn't had, I mean, I wonder if he has had like, concubines. I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
I mean, his mom is one, so why not?
That's right. Because like, yeah, like exactly what you said. They understand that it's a thing that happens. They don't like shame. They definitely don't like slut shame or any of that stuff. Yeah. The quote about greatness that we get to. What did you take away from that? Because to me, this is what I won't read the whole thing, but essentially what I took it as is when you get any bit of fame, the only way to survive it, and there's lots of examples I can think of this off the top of my head, is to like not take it very seriously. Like, I feel like Dolly Parton's a good example of this, right? She's very down to earth. She
I was
realizes that
gonna say, like, it reminds me of Lizzo.
Lizzo, oh my god, yes, same shit, right? Like, fame can happen to anybody for any reason, especially with the internet these days. We've seen it. Fucking Jake Paul, anyone, any cunt can get famous. Fame is such a fickle thing. You have to take it with a grain of salt. There are going to be so many people when you get famous being like, "Oh, all the shit you do is amazing. All the shit you do is amazing." And I have to take this advice today, by the way, because you also have to do that with the haters, because they're going to be like, "You're a piece of shit. You're the worst." Blah blah blah, and you just have to be like, "Okay," because it's all
Surprise, motherfucker! My brain tells me that every day.
That's right. I hate myself way more than you do, bitch.
Yeah, you can't say anything I haven't already thought.
That's so true. But that I don't know if you felt the same way. I feel like he's trying to say, like, successful famous people realize that their fame is just like a thing that happened.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. I don't know if you have anything to add to that with the greatness quote.
I think that it's something that we can look at that and then look at each character, because, like, I think Vladimir Harkonnen, he has let himself believe his own greatness. It reminds me of, actually, the best advice my dad ever gave me was never believe your own bullshit. And, like, that's I think kind of boiled down what Frank Herbert was saying here, just like, don't believe your own hype.
Yep.
Like, stay humble.
Yeah, I love
think
that.
Paul is doing that. I think Kynes is doing that. But yeah, there's a whole host of characters in this that are not.
Yep. Yep.
I think even, like, the Reverend Mother, I think, is letting her. She believes her own bullshit.
Aww. I love that quote from your dad. That's really cool. Don't smell your own bullshit. Yeah, like it's helped me so much in my life, and I think it will help me today. Like I said, if you can drop Ace says my superpower is eating garlic knots. Ace, how are you feeling, by the way? I wanted to ask you, like, how are you feeling? Just tell us how you're feeling. Garlic knots. I don't know if we have them so much in Australia. Do you eat garlic knots, Glynis?
I just recently started, because I was on, like, a Domino's embargo for no reason. And we just started, but yeah, no, they're pretty good. I'm not a garlic person, but they are tasty little guys. I hope that Ace gets some garlic nuts soon.
Yeah, get those garlic knots. I've got some, just before we wrap up, I've got some questions for you around themes and stuff, because I found it really interesting, right? I was like, I wonder when climate change, like, those two words came together. Like, when do we start using the term climate change, right? And so I started, like, Googling and researching and stuff. And climate change wasn't really. Yep.
It was. Correct me if I'm gonna guess. Was that was around, like, 2004?
Yes, in its resurgence. The first time it was really used was like 88. Like, 1988 is like the first time it. So, like, it wasn't really used as a term or considered a global issue until 1988. 20 years after it was such a prominent part of this novel. What's the deal with that? Like, was this dude a prophet? What's going on?
I mean, he did do how many years of research? So, like, yeah, probably was seeing, like, because it's not hard to figure. I mean, after you get to the Industrial Revolution, that, like, past that, I don't think it's hard to figure out we've had an effect on the climate.
Yep. Ace says, feeling like shit, to be honest, but watching y'all is nice. Oh, that's nice, Ace. I'm sorry you feel like shit. I hope you feel better soon.
You can send me some of the shit, and you can have some of my good vibes. I can take some shit right now.
That's so sweet. Eva says, garlic knots are delicious. I like the cheesy ones. Michael says, they say garlic grows in bulbs, but never plug one in a lamp. It never works. Plug it in a lamp. Yes. Why aren't you a father? These dad jokes need to go somewhere.
I hope, like, Tilly enjoys the dad jokes.
She definitely would. She's so pure. Hi, Tilly. If you're watching, we love you. Yeah. The place near me, he says, gets olive oil from his family's farm in Italy, and he grows his own garlic, and he fries the garlic in the olive oil and pours them over the knots. Oh my god! And he slightly overcooks the garlic knots so they absorb it without getting soggy, but the insides are super super soft.
Where am I driving to?
Yeah, how do I get there? Also says I have COVID. I have COVID shit, so no
Oh
one gets my
no.
shit. Yeah, yeah. I didn't want
Okay,
to
yeah,
be
you
like the
do.
one to say it, but yeah, I did want to ask how you were feeling because like fuck, man, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And I really really hope you feel better because fuck this shitty disease. Fuck it, right in the asshole. Unless it enjoys it, and then don't do that.
Then
uh,
just fuck near it and make it watch.
that's right. That's right. Whatever it dislikes the most, that do that to
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So here's another question for you because here's where another way I feel that Herbert is prophetic. The When the Saudi government stopped its oil export into the US, I think that was about 68, and some people say that Arrakis is kind of like the Saudi Arabia of the universe when it stopped giving oil to the US. And I was like, I can totally see that. What do you think?
Um, I think I don't know much about Saudi Arabia. But I
Same.
know my area, I'm not gonna even say area of expertise. I've read a lot more about Iran and Iranian authors, and I know there's similar events there. Oil, as soon as the oil relationship wasn't well, it turned less friendly. um but like I can see it. It's just, yeah, it's an area of the world I really don't know. It's something I'm trying to educate myself on a bit more.
Me
Because
too.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm the exact same. Like I had to do a lot of I do like books like that that like make
Mm.
me sort of spiral into these research holes where I'm like, I really should know this, but I don't, you know? Um,
Right. Actually, yeah, I have one I've been waiting to read that might come after this. About, yeah, like Iran and US relationships falling apart. I should get some more stuff about Saudi Arabia though.
yeah, yeah,
It's
I'd love
called
to
All
know.
the Shah's Men, if anyone's interested.
Oh shit. Also, Glynis is if anyone wants to see like what Glynis is reading, because Glynis tends to do the thing of like reading books that actually improve your mind instead of me just reading like fucking series of unfortunate events and shit, you know, like
Hey,
you
I
always
think all books improve your mind in
that's
some
true.
way. I
Very
just, yeah, it started 2 years ago. I started making, I wanted to do, because someone pointed out, they're like, go to your bookshelves and just see how many books you have by people of color and how many that are by white men. And like almost every single book I owned, with the exception of like Animorphs, was
yep.
by a white man, which is, I mean, like Stephen King and Michael Crichton are great. But yeah, so like I started doing, for every one book I read by a straight white cisgender man, I read one by someone who's not. A
I
white
love that.
woman counts as a half.
Nice, nice.
But yeah,
I
like,
love
and
that.
it's so interesting because there's so much I didn't learn, and like interesting people, like I never learned about like Asada Shakur. Like she's
Yep.
so fucking interesting. Or
Yeah.
like pick any like Fred Hampton, or yeah, like there's stuff you don't know, go read some nonfiction. It's great.
100%. I agree because I had the exact same revelation like this year or last year. I was like, how many of my favorite authors are actually just like cis white men? Yeah, cis straight white men,
It's
and
so
it's like,
easy when you let like the New York Times bestseller list tell you what to read.
yeah, and it's also like the subjects that you and I and other nerds gravitate towards, like science fiction and horror and stuff. They're just
Mhm.
like a lot of things dominated by that demographic, and that's fine. I'm not saying, again, like you said, Stephen King's great, Michael Crichton's great. It's more exactly what you said, exposing myself to like different ideas and experiences and perspectives, and especially women. You know, like I want to read more women. So
If you're reading sci-fi, if you love sci-fi and you have not read at least like one or two books by Ursula Le Guin, you like just need to go like
remedy
thrift
that.
books, Butterworld books, somewhere at your local bookstore and buy uh, any of her books, because like she's not one of the best women in sci-fi. She's one of the best sci-fi authors, period. It's just
Hell yeah.
She thinks big thoughts. I'm just gonna warn you.
I'm always down for that. I'm not going to say that I'll always fully understand it, but I'll definitely meditate on it for years to come.
Start with The Left Hand of Darkness. I guarantee you'll like that one because it's based it's all about gender and
Great.
like how much it's about like a first contact with a planet. And yes, read Octavia Butler. You should read Octavia Butler now. I slept on her for way too long. But yeah, it's about a planet where they have gender works like a period almost. You only have a gender 1 week out of the month.
Yep.
And you can be either or. And it's a really
awesome.
interesting explanation of how much does gender actually matter.
Yep.
And how much do we let it control ourselves? Yeah.
Yep. I love that. By the way, for anyone that might be watching that's confused, gender and sex are two different things. So when you say you can't change your biological sex, no one's arguing that. Gender's a social construct. Yes, we want to dismantle it. Yes, it still exists. Yes, people are still affected by it, and it changes their identities and affects their identities. I'm sorry, that's just the way the world works. I'm just being honest with you.
I've got my gay agenda is first we're gonna get rid of gender, and then time, and then money. I really don't care about the order, but that's my gay agenda.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, sign me up. Is there a cult that I can join with that?
Yeah, I'll send you the pamphlet.
Yeah, great. Oh, by the way, what I was going to say before is like Glynis posts a lot of reviews and cool shit on our book lovers group on Facebook. So if you are on Facebook, I still hate Zuckerberg and I'm still on Facebook, so you can still oppose Facebook and use it as a safe space. We've tried to create an inclusive, fun space for everyone to use. Just search for I Freaking Love Comics on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Discord we have as well. We do watch parties on there now, so if you ever want to get drunk and watch movies with us and chat about them, you can. We've got new merch. I should talk about that in a second, but first I've got two questions for you. One, this is a two-parter. Do you think it was right for Jessica to put her son in harm's way? Do you think she had a choice?
I don't know if it was all right, but I don't think she had a choice. I think danger is going to come for him no matter what. So the best thing that she could do is make sure he's ready, which I think what she did.
Yeah.
And if that's if you gotta push the kid into the pool early to make sure they'll be okay, then that's what you gotta do.
Because you see it with, fully sheltered kids. It's like you can go too far to the other extreme. They need to have the confidence to protect themselves. There are dangers in the world. It sucks, but that's the way it be. And sometimes the best way to protect them is to expose them.
I think Jessica, of the two parents, is the much more realistic parent. I think Leto is much more idealistic.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And as much as he's sitting there, oh, I think this could be a great home for my son. Oh, I think he really could. Jessica seems actually to be preparing this to be his home.
Yeah.
The Duke is still operating everything will be fine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I think that comes with he doesn't want to accept his fate. He doesn't want to feel like he's made the wrong decision, but he kind of knows that in his bones. And so that's where the struggle comes from, right? And he's also mad at himself. He's mad at the situation that he's put his family in, and he's like, I wish I hadn't done it, but it's done now. So now I've just got to deal with it. So I think it's self-loathing and stuff in there too. I'm loving all these. Eva's connected to chat again.
Rebecca Roanhorse is also fantastic.
Yes, I'm loving all these recommendations.
I need Ace to write me a reading list, please.
Yeah, Ace, can you please? That'd be great. We'll just chuck it on Twitter. Oh, hey baby, how you going? So cute.
Also, Michael Malone's recommendation, I second as well.
The historical Last Kingdom books? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for your recs, guys. Keep them coming because we love to read. Last question for you, Glynis, is before we wrap up. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat because this is our last one. From what we learned of the Bene Gesserit abilities, Do you see them being based in science or something supernatural?
I think they're a healthy mix of both. And I think that's like I'm I think let's try all fields of things. Like I'm willing to try homeopathic cures. I'll get a surgery if I need it. Like whatever
Yep.
you think will work, I'm open to it. And
Yep.
that seems like, yeah, the Benny Gesserit way is like whatever will give us an edge, we'll try it.
Yep.
Plus,
I
I
can
think
see
there's
that.
something to having an aura of mystery. Like we're not gonna let you know if it's magic or if it's science, and you can just be scared of us.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of what they rely on, and a lot of what political stature, I think, relies on is not releasing all the information.
Mm-hmm.
So Ace asks, "What's your Twitter? I can send you a solid list." What's your Twitter, Glynis?
Oh, my Twitter it's at Frayalyn, FrayAllyn. I
Nice.
made it a really long time ago, and it has nothing to do with anything.
I love that. At least yours isn't like trying to make a pun that's also sexual. I just have so
Like
many
Butt Cheeks
regrets.
McGee or something.
That's right. That's right. My baby. She's so cute. It's funny. As soon as Phantom heard through my headphones, she came up for pats. She's obviously wanting to say hi. She doesn't do the shoulder thing though, so I can't show you guys. But thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Thank you for participating. Hopefully you're reading along and enjoying it. Tomorrow on our live stream, we have an announcement about some new merch. And if you keep your eyes peeled on our like Teespring store, which I'll post links to when they're up, there's going to be some new face masks, which we paid an artist to design for us. And there's also going to be a competition that we're launching probably from tomorrow or next week, where it'll go for 3 or 4 weeks. You can design an IFLC face mask. The only rules are it has to include IFLC exclamation mark somewhere on there. It has to be comics inspired, specifically inspired. You cannot use licensed characters because we can't sell that shit. So you can't draw Spider-Man, but you can draw your own superhero.
Arachnid guy.
That's right. You can draw your own superhero, or you can draw something that's inspired by comics, right? It just can't be like Superman. It'll have to be like it's Superman inspired. And then third is just a standard: no profanity, no nudity, no hate speech, none of that stuff. That's the only rules. Other than that, you can do whatever you want. And the winner is going to get a free mask from the artist of their choosing, and there's 4 really good ones that you're really going to like. They'll also get a free copy of their own mask that will list up on the Teespring store for sale forever. So it'll be there, and they can always be like, I meant that. And you'll also get $30 Comixology spending credit. So it's pretty fucking sweet prize. We'll talk about that more on the live tomorrow. Also, what else should I say? There's a watch party on Discord after this. Let me just grab a link for that if I can really quickly. Glynis, is there anything you want to talk about or promote or mention before I sign us off?
No, I think that's it.
All right. I'm just going to, before we, oh my God, it's so cute. So sweet. I'm just going to quickly grab, if it lets me see it's doing an update. I might not be able to. Just go to Discord, check, like, it's on our website, iflcomics.com. We've also got a Reddit, like I said, Twitter, Instagram, all the good shit. Eva says $30 in Comixology is a lot of comics goodness. It certainly is. A says they're going to be Helen Mirren's boobs because I have like 300 pictures of her boobs. I'm designing one comic tits with the nipples as exclamation points.
Can you make a mosaic of Helen Mirren's boobs from pictures of Helen Mirren's boobs?
Please do that. Please do that. I feel like you're helping humanity by doing that. What else have we got? Michael says he's working on it. One time I sent Michael Malone a list of my favorite Gaga live performances, and I will do it again anytime. I love this. So yeah, if there's anything you want to tweet to us, chat to us, you know where we are. Thank you for joining in. We love you so much. And I'll see you guys soon. All right, I'm clicking end. You ready? Bye.
Bye.